Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Story Tell Her. I am your host, Mantia Imagini. And the very first thing that I would like to do is to thank everyone who shared my trailer, who sent me words of encouragement. Thank you. You all have no idea how much that means to me. So with that being said, let me introduce myself. I am a wife, a mother of 4 girls. That's right, I'm a girl mom. I am an early childhood educator, a teacher, an entrepreneur, and a believer. The very first story that I would like to share with you all is my testimony. Because to me, my testimony is the most important part of my story. As you will hear later on, without my testimony, I wouldn't be here. I would like to begin with my earliest memories of going to church. I grew up in the church since the age of 9. My mom and my Aunt Joyce made sure that as young kids, my brother and my sisters and I went to church. And I can recall the very first time that I fell in love with Jesus and the Word of God. It was during Sunday school, and Sister Carol was the teacher. And I sat and I listened to her, and I said within myself, I want to be baptized. For many of you who may not know what it means to be baptized, that's the first step of faith that Christians make. They go down in a pool of water and confess that Jesus Christ died for their sins. But at that time, I was told that I had to be 12, because 12 was considered the age of accountability. So I had no choice but to wait. And then the age of 12 came. And I thought, I'm not perfect enough to accept Jesus Christ into my life right now. See, at that time, I believed that being a Christian was performance-based. I believed that to be a Christian, you had to be perfect and you had to do everything right. So I decided I would wait until I turned 13. 13 came, and I decided, no, I can't be a Christian yet. I'll wait until I'm 16. Oh, and 16 came. And I'll just say, by that time, I was your typical teenager in the 10th or 11th grade. So just think about where you were and how you were in 10th or 11th grade. I was not quite ready to give my life to Jesus yet. So let's fast forward 2 more years to the summer I turned 18. I was on my way to Eastern Michigan University, and I don't know if anyone who's listening had the average college experience with the weed and the alcohol. So that's pretty much what I was doing every day for 2 years. And I got so addicted to it that it became a part of my everyday life. It got to the point where I could no longer manage drinking and smoking. So 2 years later, I eventually dropped out of college. I tried to hide that from my mom, and the drinking got worse. I felt like a failure. I felt like I had no purpose. So I decided to just keep drinking. I decided to fill the void with boys. And that made me feel worse because the relationships were so toxic. I got to the point where I tried to drink the pain away, to the point where I don't remember most nights. I blacked out several times, and I even got a DUI. One night, I was headed to work. I was living in Ypsi at the time, and I was completely hungover from the night before. And I went to go make a left turn, and I totaled my car. At that point, I had to move back in with my mom because I couldn't drive from Ypsi all the way to Royal Oak at a job that we worked at together. At that point, I felt even more purposeless. I felt like a failure. And again, the drinking got worse. Because of my behavior, the most important relationships in my life began to become ruined. It even got to the point where my mom told me that she had a dream that she killed me. And when she told me that, I had just woken up from sleeping on her couch, and there was nothing that I could say. And I sat there, and that's when I first began to contemplate suicide. I began thinking to myself, there's plenty of medication here. I can take a lot of pills. But then if someone finds me, they'll just take me to the hospital and they'll pump my stomach and I'll still be here. So then I thought, my bonus dad is a police officer and we have a gun in the house. Maybe I'll just blow my brains out. And then I thought to myself, what if I'm not successful in that? What if I'm still alive and then I'm just in a vegetative state all of my life? So as I thought about this, I began to remember being told that people who killed themselves go to hell. It was in that moment that I cried out to God to save me, to rescue me, to deliver me, to heal me from all of this pain and shame. Because I knew that if I didn't ask God to save me, that I was eventually going to die or accidentally hurt someone else. The night that I got the DUI, I was driving on 96. I have no idea how fast I was going, but I drove right past the police. That's how reckless and careless I was. So I cried out to God the only way that I knew how. I remember after every Sunday in church, and this is the awesome part about my mom, is that even at the age of 20, and I moved in with her, and I didn't drink there. I didn't drink in her home. Let's be clear about that. I never drank in her home. But she would wake me up every Sunday morning, and she would tell me, as long as you live in my home, I don't care how old you are, you're going to church. And at the end of every church service, the pastor would say, Romans 10:9, if you declare with your mouth, Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. I said that prayer, I believe, in my mother's bathroom, and I cried out to God to help me. And in that moment, a huge weight was lifted off of me. I can't quite put the experience into words. I mean, anyone who has ever had an experience of salvation and of Jesus, it's the most unexplainable joy. I had joy again. Life was bright again. The world looked different. I had peace. I had hope. I had strength. I had Jesus. That's the first part of my testimony. Thank you for listening. Come back next week to hear episode 2. So I'm saved. Now what? Thank you for tuning in and have a great Saturday.